All right, ready to dig into something pretty interesting with me today? We're diving deep into Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil.
Oh, this one's a real hidden gem. Not as widely known as Think and Grow Rich.
Right, but just as powerful, maybe even more so in a way.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating is Hill himself considered this like his most controversial piece of work.
Really?
He actually worried it might ruin his reputation, which is kind of why it
Dang.
wasn't published until after he passed away.
So it's like we're getting this like behind the scenes look at his thoughts, the stuff he wasn't even sure he wanted to share.
Exactly. And it's really a trip because it starts with Hill facing these major roadblocks in his own life.
Which honestly makes it even more relatable, right? We've all hit those walls, those tough times.
For sure. And he doesn't shy away from it. He talks about his early career, the mentorship he got from Andrew Carnegie, the steel tycoon.
Yeah, Carnegie, that's a name that carries some weight.
And Carnegie, he really pushed Hill, challenged him to figure out what made successful people tick.
So that's where this whole philosophy of achievement thing really starts.
Exactly. Carnegie told him, go interview 500 of the most successful people you can find.
500.
500. And basically distill their wisdom into like a blueprint for success. He'll spend over 20 years on this.
Wow, that's dedication. But he wasn't just looking at their wins, was he?
No way. He dug into their struggles, the failures, those moments when they doubted themselves.
Because that's the good stuff, right? That's where the real learning is.
100%. And one example that really stands out is this magazine Hill started, The Golden Rule.
Oh yeah, I read about that. It seemed like a surefire hit, but then he just gives it away.
I know, right? And it wasn't the only time he kind of sabotaged his own success. He walked away from a super lucrative job training salesman.
He was making bank, too, from what I hear.
Yeah, but something was off. He was wrestling with this internal struggle, realizing that money and fame, the things he thought he wanted,
Yeah.
they weren't fulfilling him, not really.
It's like a classic case of money can't buy happiness.
Totally. He was searching for something deeper, something more meaningful. And this is where things take a really wild turn.
Okay, hit me with it.
So Hill's going through this intense breakdown, right? All this inner turmoil, and he hears this voice, this other self, he calls it, urging him to finish his philosophy of achievement work.
I can only imagine how jarring that must have been.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Hill even questioned his own sanity. That's how real it felt. This was a turning point for him.
Really?
It convinced him that we all have this other self, this wellspring of untapped potential and wisdom that often surfaces during our toughest moments.
So this encounter with the devil, this interview,
Yeah.
it's a pretty crazy concept, especially coming from someone like Napoleon Hill.
Right. It's like Hill's going through all this, right? This intense period in his life trying to reconcile his success with this longing for something more. And then, bam, he has this conversation with the devil.
And he presents it as a way to understand failure, like getting to the bottom of why we hold ourselves back. But the devil.
Really? Well, and this is where Hill gets really interesting, really pushes the boundaries of typical self-help. It's like he's taking these self-sabotaging voices, those patterns we all experience, and giving them this concrete form. It's like he's trying to understand them better by giving them a face, a personality.
I can see that. It's like by giving those negative forces a name, a presence, it makes them easier to confront. But did Hill actually believe he was talking to a real devil? I mean, come on.
He addresses that head on, actually. He makes it clear that whether the encounter was real or not, that's not really the point.
It's about the insights, right? The lessons learned.
Exactly. He even says, the devil I interviewed may have been real, just as he claimed to be, or he may have been the creation of my own imagination. Whichever he was, whether real or imaginary, is of little importance compared with the nature of the information conveyed through the interview.
So it's not about taking it literally, but about paying attention to the message.
Precisely. And in this confession, as Hill calls it, the devil, he reveals these super sneaky tactics, things he uses to mess with us.
So what's the devil's secret weapon then? What should we be on the lookout for?
Fear. Straight up fear. He specifically names 6. Fear of poverty, criticism, bad health, losing love, getting older, and, death.
Wow, when you put it like that, it's like no wonder we get tripped up. Those fears are pretty universal.
Right. It's like he's tapping into these deep-seated anxieties we all have.
It makes you realize how easily we can let those fears control our choices,
Absolutely. And the devil, he doesn't stop there. He goes on about this danger of drifting, not having a clear purpose, and just letting life happen to you.
Instead of designing the life you want, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. He gets even sneakier.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about how he uses seemingly harmless things to lead people astray.
Homeless things, like what?
He mentions things like flattery,
Okay.
giving unwanted advice,
Oh, yeah, we've all been on the receiving end of that one.
right, and even, get this, too much help from loved ones.
And hold on, too much help. How's that even a bad thing?
That's what I thought too. But he makes this point that when we're always stepping in, fixing things for other people, especially our kids, we're robbing them of the chance to develop their own resilience. It's like instead of encouraging independence and strength, it creates this dependence on others.
Wow, I never thought about it like that, but he's right. It's that whole give a man a fish versus teach a man to fish thing.
Exactly. And the devil, he knows this. He understands how to exploit our good intentions and turn them against us.
So he's painting a pretty bleak picture here, wouldn't you say? Like, we're all susceptible to fear, doubt, even the well-meaning actions of others.
Yeah, it's a little heavy, for sure.
Yeah.
But here's where Hill really shines. He doesn't leave us to wallow in it. He shifts the conversation.
Oh, good. Because I was starting to feel a little doomed there for a second.
No, Hill was too sharp for that. He actually draws out of the devil a set of 7 principles we can use to overcome these negative influences. He takes control of the conversation.
So he uses the devil's own playbook against him.
Exactly. Hill was a master at reframing things. He took this dark, kind of scary concept of the devil and turned it into this roadmap to empowerment. It's really brilliant when you think about it.
All right, so we've heard the devil's playbook, the tactics he uses to hold us back. But Hill, he doesn't leave us hanging, does he?
Not at all. He lays out these 7 principles, these tools we can use to fight back and take control.
It's like he takes the devil's confession and turns it into a roadmap to empowerment.
Exactly. And the first principle, the foundation of it all, is definiteness of purpose.
Okay, so no more drifting, right? We got to have a vision, a plan, and really go after it.
You got it. The devil himself admits that definiteness of purpose, it's one of his biggest obstacles.
Really? He's scared of a good plan.
Well, think about it. When we have that clear purpose, we break free from those hypnotic rhythms he was talking about.
Right. No more just reacting to whatever life throws at us. We get to make conscious choices.
And that's powerful stuff. But it's not just about setting any goal. It's about finding something that truly resonates with you. That's key.
Yeah, that deep down motivation, the thing that gets you fired up in the morning. So what's next on the list? How do we build up that inner strength to go after our goals?
That's where mastery over self comes in. This principle is all about controlling your thoughts and emotions instead of letting them control you.
Oh man, that inner critic, those doubts, that's something I struggle with for sure.
We all do. It's about recognizing that you have the power to choose how you respond to things.
So it's not about ignoring those negative thoughts, but learning how to navigate them, right?
Exactly. And this mastery, it extends to other areas of our lives too. Things like our desire for food, intimacy, even that urge to express those uninvited opinions.
Wait, hold on. Uninvited opinions. How does that fit in with self-mastery?
Well, the devil, he argues that those uninvited opinions often come from a place of not being fully self-aware. We're trying to force our views on others instead of respecting different perspectives.
That's a good point. It's about choosing our words carefully and considering their impact.
Exactly. And speaking of learning and growth, that brings us to the third principle, learning from adversity.
Okay, this one feels especially relevant to Hill's own story, right? I mean, the guy went through a lot of setbacks.
Absolutely. And he learned from every single one. He even quotes the devil as saying, failure often serves as a blessing in disguise.
A blessing in disguise. That's an interesting way to put it.
Right. The devil's point is that failure can shake things up, break us out of those negative patterns, and give us a fresh start.
So it's not about avoiding failure, but embracing it as a chance to learn and grow.
100%. Now, the fourth principle is all about who we surround ourselves with. Environmental influence.
Yeah, that's huge. The people we spend time with, the information we consume, it all shapes us.
Hill even quotes the devil as saying, be careful of all forces which inspire thought. Those are the forces which constitute environment and determine the nature of one's earthly destiny.
So we got to be mindful of what and who we allow to influence us.
It's not enough to just avoid negativity. We have to actively seek out positive influences.
People and experiences that uplift us, challenge us to grow. Makes sense. Okay, what's next?
The fifth principle is time. It's about understanding that wisdom and growth, they take time.
So patience is key.
It's about trusting the process, playing the long game, and understanding that rushing things often leads to disappointment.
It's like that saying, Rome wasn't built in a day. Good things take time. All right, what about finding inner peace? Where does that fit in?
That's where harmony comes in, the sixth principle. It's about cultivating that inner peace within yourself and striving for harmony in your relationships with others.
So it's about balance.
Exactly. Inner balance and outward balance. And finally, the seventh principle Hill uncovers is caution. It's about being discerning in every area of life, especially when it comes to relationships and opportunities.
So taking that pause, assessing the situation before jumping in headfirst.
Precisely. It's about making thoughtful decisions. Even the devil, the master of deception himself, recognizes the power of caution.
That's pretty ironic, don't you think? Considering he's all about tempting people to make reckless choices.
Right. But it goes to show that even the devil understands the importance of careful consideration.
Wow, this has been a wild ride. Hill's personal story, this crazy interview with the devil, and then these 7 principles. It's a lot to process.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? I mean, Outwitting the Devil, it's more than just a self-help book. It's about this deep desire for freedom. Freedom from fear, from doubt, from those limitations we put on ourselves.
And those 7 principles are the keys. It's about taking control, creating the life you want.
And remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about showing up, facing those challenges, and tapping into that other self. That's where the real power lies.
That untapped potential, that inner wisdom, it's available to all of us if we're willing to put in the work.
Exactly. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left thinking about this question Hill asks. Could the challenges we face today be opportunities for us to tap into our other selves and create a more fulfilling destiny?
It's something to think about, for sure. Well, on that note, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Outwitting the Devil. It's been an enlightening one.